Hello, this is First Fire Non-Assault Move. Welcome back to the 33rd video in the War in the East series. Let's get a situation report. It is now the third week of August, 1942, and a lot has happened the last turn, but we'll start with Army Group North and work our way down the front. Not really a change here, we just did an attack to start to loosen up the Soviets in this sector around Tallinn, because we have now taken Pskov. Surprisingly, the Soviets only defended with one division this last turn, and we were able to, uh, let's see. Here's the attack. We grouped up a 2-hex attack surface, and we were able to push the Soviets out, which was fantastic. Very surprising that they only left one division there. So they retreated, and then we quickly moved in and secured Pskov. And we pushed ahead a little bit to give us some breathing room and potential jumping off point for the now newly introduced to this part of the front, the 30th Panzer Corps, which was sitting around Smolensk with the 57th Panzer Corps. So now they've been retasked, brought up to Army Group North's area of operations, and maybe exploit this situation here. This is after aerial recon, and the Soviets have no operational reserves to speak of. Just a lot of airfields we would love to overrun. And potentially there are Soviets organizing, grouping up here in Leningrad like they have always done, and they will probably be pushed south and east, south and west. But for now, we are going to see what we can do with this new opportunity. From Pskov all the way down to Veliky Luki, not much has changed. We just did a few attacks, again, to disrupt the Soviets, keep them on their toes. And further south, Veliky Luki to Smolensk, no real change along this part of the front. Oh, with the 30th Panzer Corps, we assigned to a motorized, no, actually it was 2 Panzer divisions we assigned to 30th Panzer Corps because they were kind of light on allocation. And now 57th has 3 Panzer, 2 Panzer and 1 motorized, and the 30th has, I think, 2 Panzer, 1 motorized, and a Panzer regiment. So a little distribution of forces, and maybe make something out of Army Group North sector around Pskov. All right, from Smolensk to Bryansk, no real change. Didn't make any attacks. Just a lot of airdrops. From Bryansk all the way down to Sumy. This stretch of the front is where the Germans are defending in place, digging in. They're facing light opposition, really, from Bryansk to Sumy, except where the Soviets had started to react to our penetration in and around Sumy, where we had the encirclement, and there are remainders of that force that was sent to block our rupture in the Soviets' front. And they may make their presence felt in the next couple of turns. A pretty sizable force here, but I believe we have strong enough forces to withstand anything other than what the Soviets would accomplish with a local attack here and there. South of Sumy is where where all the action was taking place in the drama. So this turn overall, from north to south, it's been all about securing this encirclement. You could say that the grip on this encirclement right where we linked up north of Dnipropetrovsk was a little tenuous, and I was nervous last turn. But since then, we were able to widen our corridor from the outer perimeter and the inner perimeter of the encirclement, and we are very strong along all sectors of the encirclement, inner and outer. I don't fear any breakout from the Soviets that are encircled, and I don't fear any break-ins from the Soviets that are trying to relieve their forces. There's a little odd mini encirclement here that I might have been able to push into the the the, um, the bulk of the Soviet forces that are encircled. However, I didn't want to waste resources for that. We'll just finish them off. It's just tying up a few extra of our own formations, and we're able to attack the Soviets and push them out of. Did we attack out of them? Did we attack Poltava directly? No, we didn't, but we did push the Soviets away from Poltava so that we were able to move in. We rushed in a Slovakian. Oh, is this a? Yeah, so Slovakian mobile division to take Poltava to deny the Soviets within this encirclement any supply that they may have gained. All right, moving further south of Netropetrovsk, we saw that last turn Mud was within the Central Soviet Zone. I'm sorry, correction. South Soviet Zone was Mud. To our great fortune, we guess we lucked out a little bit with random weather this time. It didn't affect really any operations. In fact, it might have hindered the Soviets more than the Germans, because the Soviets might have put pressure to the south on our penetration here around Netropetrovsk, and now they'd have to attack out of Mud. And you see their combat values are greatly reduced. So that's good for us. We didn't receive any reinforcements. I chased off all the partisans. There was a host of them. Took a quick look at our rail network. It's hard to keep up with the sheer quantity of partisans that arrive each turn, and I had to split the manually controlled railroad repair engineers to start to catch up to our advancing forces, as well as to react to where the partisans come in and break our rail lines. And it's a losing battle. We're still pretty good having a contiguous rail network to the front, but at this rate, we may lose a few significant railheads, a broken line to railheads where our really critical situation, not critical, where it would be critical to get supplies for our axes of advance. So we got to keep up on that. It's tedious, it's annoying. Wish there was a more refined way to deal with the partisans, but this is how they are represented. They just materialize, and we have to react to them, chase them off, and rinse and repeat. All right. On that note, there is nothing left to do on this turn. It was all about securing and repositioning. All right, let me step back. I forgot to move about half a dozen corps headquarters to get our divisions in command and control and supply. There was a multitude of divisions within our axis of advance, the inner and outer perimeter, that were out of supply. It was really inexcusable, because you go down that checklist, make sure you don't forget these things. That means our panzer divisions and our infantry divisions did not receive the best supply allocation this turn. That being said, it didn't have a significant impact on operations, because we weren't going to attack any further east, and we didn't make any attacks really against the Soviets that are encircled. It's just repositioning. So dodge a little bullet there on my administrative oversight. So let's click next turn. It was kind of a short turn for the Germans. Not nearly as much calculations, planning, and thought to go into this turn. So in this video, we'll have the results of the next German turn, as well as watching the Soviets' execution of their turn here. So it'll be, again, 2 Soviet turns we'll see, and the result of 2 German turns in this video. So it leaves it at the zoom level that you're at when you click next turn, so we're not going to get a closer look. That's alright, it's a little different. See the bigger picture. Yeah, looking a little better, a little stronger where we had encircled Soviets. What will be interesting is how the Soviets react around Pskov, because they don't have many forces there to oppose to Panzer Corps and the infantry we have there. Oh, wow, they're already rushing in forces. Where'd they come from? Oh, they not only rushed in forces, they had enough to... They had 106,000 troops to make that attack. So much for that. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Honestly, I did aerial recon, and they had like 4 divisions in that area. So not only do the Soviets have the control of weather, and maybe they have developed some teleportation technology. I think you're seeing what I'm seeing. You see? What is that? 4? What are they thinking? Just leaving them out there like that. So that's something we're going to have to look out for moving forward. The Soviets are starting to move in tank corps, tank brigades through gaps. There's not a continuous front. They're doing that, even though it's expending a lot of movement factors, and they're not able to really do anything with it, except forcing us to react. It's new behavior for the Soviets. We definitely didn't see that in 1941. And they're starting to react a little different. Keep the Germans on our toes. I don't think this... No, the Soviets didn't attack at all from out of the pocket. Another planning consideration to continue to attack to the east around Kharkov potentially, or between Kharkov and Petrovsk was potential of the central Soviet zone getting mud next turn. So it wasn't really worth.
Me again, I'm sorry. What do you want on it? Like what?
Losses, 20,000, right about average. Like to be under 20. Lost 46 AFEs. Soviets lost 207. Oh, wow. Soviet losses have jumped. 600. Oh, yeah. I'm betting that next turn, since there's no mud, we can finish off the pocket, and this is going to go over 7 million. I have to look at what shenanigans the Soviets are pulling. Where was it? You know, why? They're going to lose 3 tank corps and accomplish nothing. All we care about in this part of the front is from zooming in a little bit, from Bryansk to Sumy, is to not have any catastrophe and just hold a line so that the Soviets don't interrupt any offensive operations of ours. So attacks like this by the Soviets could cause some concern for the Germans. The next turn for the Germans, it's definitely repairable, and we can react and take advantage and destroy 3 tank corps, which we will do. I had the intention of not even attempting to take Kharkov in September and maybe pull away from Kharkov and take Petrovsk instead, which would straighten the line. But we'll see how many more turns we have of solid ground and clear weather. So it's pretty strong here. We may look to shift again our 4 Panzer Corps. That's like the core of our attacking forces. Now that, well, now there's 5, well, actually 6, because we had 4, and then we had committed the 24th, and then we had 36. So we're looking here, there's probably 5 to 6 Panzer Corps right now. So another one definitely has to go south to be in position for 1943, and I may pull another one up with the 57th just to be mindful of this, because it is going to be winter, and the Soviets they seem to be more bold in the winter. It's going to be a 1942 winter, not a 1941 winter. Hopefully the Germans will be more on equal footing, and we can react and attack even in the winter that's coming up. But it's all about this turn is all about destroying the Soviets here, reorganizing, and getting into position for 1943. Large encirclements like this more than likely are not in the cards for the Germans from September to when winter sets in, which could be only half a dozen turns. Yeah, September, October, November. Well, we'll see. We're not going to call off all offensive operations right now. We'll look for opportunities. It'll be smaller opportunities because we don't want to attempt something like this and then get stuck in mud in the next couple of weeks. All right, I'll be back after we finish off the Soviets and conduct all the other moves and attacks and get a situation report. And then we'll execute the Soviets next turn. And I'm back. Moves and attacks complete. Let's get a situation report. No change along this sector of Army Group North's front. We look at Pskov. We've pushed past the city about 10 miles, get some breathing room to the city. We have 57th Panzer Corps here still. What has changed, you will see that 30th Panzer Corps has been moved. It's been redirected back to Army Group Center. And it aborted we aborted any attempts to push uh, past Pskov north and east and maybe threaten Leningrad. That is not in the cards because it is the first week of September, and at any moment we could get locked in mud and really find ourselves in a difficult position, becoming immobile once mud sets in. So we don't have any plans other than securing and holding Pskov in this sector. From Pskov to Veliky Luki, no change. We resupplied our infantry divisions along this part of the front. And from Veliky Luki to Smolensk, here is the 30th Panzer Corps down here, along with now the 57th Panzer Corps. Was I saying 57th with this Panzer Corps? This is the 56th. Yeah, 56th up here by Pskov and the 57th down by Smolensk. A few attacks here, maybe pressuring the Soviets, get a little encirclement, a mini encirclement, or at least rout and disrupt and fragment the Soviets here, and where they're a little thin right now, where they used to have a huge buildup, now it's a little thinner. Moving from Smolensk down to Bryansk, the plan for 57th Panzer Corps and 30th Panzer Corps is to attack in this sector of Army Group Center's front to threaten Vyazma. The Soviets have dramatically thinned their line And this is after aerial recon. They really thin their lines from Smolensk to Bryansk. We have superior combat power, and we're going to take advantage of that. Made a few attacks just to disrupt the Soviets, and maybe get a breach in their lines, and get some local encirclements, maybe onesie twosie Soviet divisions and corps. No change around Bryansk, just forming our defensive line, and further south of Bryansk, continuation of our main line of resistance with the Italians bolstering the front, helping to bolster. This is what it looks like now with the 3 Soviet tank corps that pushed through a gap in our lines. We've pulled back a few Italians to get a complete encirclement of these 3 corps. I don't think we're in any threat of the Soviets from the Soviets attacking from east to west to free these 3 tank corps. What they have here is 2 brigades and a division, and there's no operational reserves. So they'll attack, and I don't think they'll have any successful results. I may pull back one of these infantry divisions to... I'll shuffle them a little bit to just bolster maybe these 2 positions here, just to resist any Soviet attacks coming from the east. But those 3 tank corps should surrender next turn. Moving down a little further, in and around Sumy, no change. The Soviets are pressuring. There's a little bit of a gap here. We're kind of baiting them to get a similar situation here where the Soviets think they can make something happen, and then we'll just close the door on them. They do have a tank corps and a motorized brigade that they could push through here, and then we'll just attack from the north and the south, and maybe destroy another couple of their divisions getting an encirclement. A little further south of Sumy, here is where all the action took place. Starting from the northern shoulder of our penetration and our threat on Kharkov, where the pocket was formed, we've established a defensive front here, using the river as well to our advantage. What we did is we pulled back some of our divisions. We did have them abutting the Soviet forces up here. We pulled back in an attempt to bait them in. We have two Hungarian divisions to entice the Soviets a little more to move up adjacent to these Hungarian divisions and move even further south to come adjacent to these forces, because we want to spring a trap to attack north and east in this sector just west of Kharkov, and also to attack with the newly positioned, this is the 24th Panzer Corps, to attack into the flank of any movement of the Soviets might make down here, and maybe get an encirclement of about 15 Soviet formations. That is a tentative plan. What we really want to do is take Kharkov. It will be a brute force attack, more than likely. The Soviets are going to bolster the defenses. Right now, they just have some really roughed up formations that we made repeated attacks against. We could not budge this stack of Soviets. They held out repeatedly over and over again. It was really unfortunate because we just wanted to push them a little further back to get some freedom of maneuver and threaten Kharkov a little more to the south. Our panzer divisions are low on fuel and supply. They made a lot of attacks and moves, and coupled with last week's turns, they're not in the greatest offensive posture right now or condition. Hopefully they'll be in better supply next turn, because we do definitely want to take Kharkov. Moving further south, very lightly defended front for the Germans here, just north of Dnepropetrovsk. That's because we have a lot of formations that were tied up, finishing off the Soviets in the pocket. And looking at Dnepropetrovsk, we're certainly threatening the city now. We made repeated attacks to get this far. It was rather arduous. And if you take a look, the Soviets have a field of formations assembled down here. Where did they all come from? Not a few weeks ago, they were devoid of any operational reserves, so they must have felt a threat down here, or maybe they were planning for their own offensive with the upcoming fall and winter. Very interesting to see this, and a little daunting because they have significantly more forces than we do right now in this part of Army Group South front from Netropetrovsk south. Hopefully the pressure we're putting on here around Netropetrovsk and the very thin front the Soviets have up here, they will start to pull forces out of here to eliminate some of the offensive threat the Soviets may pose right now. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the turn. Let's jump right to losses. And there's a feature here I haven't pointed out, but it's very useful. You know, I've been just doing just going manually counting the divisions that I've destroyed during the course of these pockets since we started the game, and now this can really show you a beautiful snapshot of what we accomplished for destroying Soviet formations. So on turn 64, we have destroyed 55 Soviet formations. Not all of them are represented on the map. There's a lot of battalion, regiment, company size support formations that are transparently attached to the cores. The core, to attach the core, I'll show you what you mean. I'll show you what I mean. For instance, some of those losses refer to these forces here, attached support, that factor into combat resolution rather significantly. So losing these supporting elements is, it's a good thing. Oh, wow. Did I not reassign you? I'm going to have to get back to you before I hit next turn. Yeah, missed that. Anyway, let's get back to the losses. So we go down to destroyed units, and this is turn 64. Yes, we destroyed about 30, count, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 35 formations were destroyed in the pocket, and tack on the supporting elements as well. So in total, 55 Soviet formations destroyed. Let's take a look at losses. This turn alone, over 400,000 casualties we caused on the Soviets. This is after multiple attacks in and around Netropetrovsk that jumped up pretty high, as well as some attacks elsewhere along the front. 330,000 Soviet forces were destroyed, to include over 303 Soviet prisoners. So that was a significant blow to the Soviets right before fall is starting to set in and mud will debilitate any future offensive operations. What really jumps out is not only the casualties, manpower casualties, but over 2,000 Soviet tanks were destroyed this turn and 6,000 guns. So massive casualties caused to the Soviets this turn. A little depressingly, it doesn't seem like they lost much, does it? Because they still have so many forces. But if we look a little closely at this, there are large tracts of the front, large stretches of the front where the Soviets are rather thin. Traveling back down to the pocket area, it's a little in disarray where we have our formations. They're kind of scattered around. Just look at the mixture of colors as corps and divisions have moved to finish off the Soviets and try to get back to the front, and also position ourselves for a little bit of a snare for the Soviets to get an encirclement there, and also position ourselves in and around Netropetrovsk to finally take that city. It's going to be brutal to take this city on a frontal attack, but we're going to stack up 3 divisions in each of these hexes, and they'll all attack in tandem. And I think at the very least, maybe on a second deliberate attack, we'll be able to take Dnipropetrovsk. Maybe the Soviets will concede the city, but I doubt it. They'll probably leave just some throwaway divisions to tie up the German forces in and around this sector. So if you look at the front from Dnipropetrovsk all the way down to Nikolaev, where the Romanians are, we did some attacks as well here just to disrupt the Soviets, put some pressure on, and not have them concentrate solely against Germans up here and confront 11th Army and 3rd Panzer. And now our newly committed, what was that, the 36th Panzer Corps? Just to keep the Soviets honest and not defend so lightly here and get some gains with the Romanians as well. So that's the quick summary of the turn. Most of the attention was devoted to destroying the Soviets in this pocket, re-establishing a front and putting pressure on Kharkov and Dnipropetrovsk, getting some plans together to attack here around this sector west of Vyazma, and continuing to disrupt the Soviets, not letting them get comfortable around Pskov, widening a little bit of our gains around Pskov, and also just dropping air supplies to our troops to keep them topped off as best we can with supplies. I think we're at the point where we are going to press next turn. Last time we zoomed out a little bit when the Soviets were executing their turn. Let's get a little closer to the action. There we go. Little concerned what the Soviets will do around Dnipropetrovsk. They have a lot of forces down there, and they think they're going to pressure our attacks and our progress trying to take Dnipropetrovsk. And Kharkov, will they reinforce with everything they have to prevent the taking of Kharkov, or will they pull back? And will they try to relieve those 3 Panzer Corps that we have encircled? Wow. I think maybe they're a little spooked, losing 55 formations. That they pulled back. They pulled out of Dnipropetrovsk. So if we attacked a little south and east, like south of Kharkov down towards Dnipropetrovsk, we could have got a little bit of an encirclement there. Oh, I was wondering if they're going to do that. I kind of left that open. Maybe I left it too open. Look at that. Well, we'll see. We'll have to react to that. And the question looming as well is, what will the weather be this second week in September that's coming up? What's going on here? Doggone it. They didn't move down and take the bait. Was that 128,000 men? It's 135,000 men. I have to admit, I'm a little concerned. I might have been a little too blasé about letting a gap there for the Soviets to attempt to sneak in a couple more so we can encircle them again. And I think they might have snuck in a little more than we could chew. The way this battlefield is shaping up is very interesting. We definitely have forces that can be freed up to address this situation after they've finished off the Soviets in the pocket. Yeah, they've pushed those forces to the north that we saw all laid out to the south there. Great quantitude of forces down here. Will there be mud in any of the 3 Soviet zones? Way to hold out, Romanians. Good for you. The plan for 1943 is to definitely have 3 panthers going down here to the south. I'm going to bring the 14th down. Fascinating. It's so late in the year. What about an attack north, east of Petropavlovsk, all the way down to Crimea and encircle all of these forces? Wouldn't that be amazing? I'm a little worried about what the Soviets did there in Army Group Center's area of operations, that part of the front there. Looks like they have 5 to 6 forces that have come through a little gap. But I'm not really concerned with how the front looks with Army Group Center right now. If we have to retreat a little back, a couple 10 to 20 miles here or there, doesn't matter really in the big picture for us. So if we can nip off those forces like we just did, we're going to do with those 3 tank corps, we'll do so. Absolutely. I'll give a little ground any day to kill 6 to 8 Soviet formations. Yes, indeed. Right about average, as we see. Only 49 AFEs. Soviets lost 237. They did commit a lot of their tank corps to those attacks. Relatively light losses for the Soviets here. Creeping up on 7 million. Do we have any mud anywhere? Ooh, random weather was a little kind to us. Kind to us in second week of September. Very good. Here it is. Here's what they're doing here. Yeah, we definitely have forces to correct this. But they're not as extended as I thought. They got some pretty decent flank support here. I think we can definitely 3 more tank corps. I think we can destroy these tank corps. I think we'll be able to do that. What does it look like around Kharkov? Seriously, They cannot have left this open. Let's move. Oh my, did they really do that? What does aerial recon show us? I think we can get these 6 formations here, corps and divisions. Definitely. I think we have the combat power to take Kharkov here. They saw how very thin the front was here, and now I don't know where these forces came from. They didn't have very many, and now they have quite a bit. Still, we have all our combat power built up here, which we have to shake out, get them back into the front, and find out where we're going to continue to attack, because thankfully we have solid ground this turn. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's getting very interesting. We'll see if we can take Kharkov next turn and Dnipropetrovsk. This is First Fire, non-assault move out.